Hi, my name's Andrew Paterson. I'm Managing Director of Great Boulder Resources. I'm going to do a few of these little videos about Great Boulder, about the techniques that we use. And this is in response to a few conversations I've had with shareholders recently who have been asking questions about these sorts of things. Everything from the way we explore, identify targets, all the way through to our longer term strategy. So I'll do these in small bite-sized chunks. So this is the first one. I'm going to talk about geochemistry and pathfinders. So we talk a lot about pathfinder elements. I want to talk about what they are and what they mean and why they're important. So firstly, our project, as you may know, is up here around Meekatharra in the northern Murchison. We've got the Sidewell and Polel projects there. Sidewell is the flagship, and this is it here, just right next to Meekatharra in Western Australia. Got the Great Northern Highway going up the west side of the project. Westgold's Paddy's Flat operation is basically here on the edge of town, and we're about 10 minutes drive away. Our flagship projects deposits here so far are Mulga Bill and Ironbark, and I'll talk a little bit about them. So talking about geochemistry, the first thing to consider is how do we collect this information, and this is a handheld auger. It's a steel petrol-powered handheld auger rig. That's Dave, our geologist there. We drill a small hole, usually about 20 or 30 centimetres deep, take about 2 kilos of sample and then backfill the hole. So there's no impact on the environment. And then we send that off for a multi-element assay, and we assay that for about 48 elements and gold. And we assay gold down to 1 part per billion. So 1 gram per tonne, there's a million grams in a tonne, so that's 1 part per million. We're assaying down to 1,000th of that level. So we've now tested with that auger rig all of this area in the outcropping geology on the east side of Sidewell. So this is a strip of about 14 kilometres of strike. And this is showing gold targets and bismuth, and bismuth is one of our key pathfinders. So really, when we're talking about pathfinders, we need to consider what is a pathfinder element, and really a pathfinder is any geochemical association that can lead you to what you're looking for, whether it be gold, base metals, lithium, or whatever. So obviously we're looking for gold, and pathfinders can be characteristic of the style of mineralisation. So at Mulga Bill, for example, we're dealing with intrusive related mineralisation, and what that means is it's been driven by a big magmatic intrusion at depth, and that tends to be associated with a whole heap of different metals. For example, bismuth, silver, moly, molybdenum, and sometimes copper, and sometimes tungsten. So we look at all of those things, and bismuth is one of the keys, and bismuth was really important in unlocking Mulga Bill in the early stage. The reason for that is that during the weathering process, when you start with what we call fresh rock, which is unweathered rock, and then you weather that ultimately down to clays and silica, things like that, generally the gold will leach out during that process, and it may stay nearby even as nuggets and things, or it may dissipate completely. So what we see at Mulga Bill is there is a depleted zone in the weathering. It's quite deep weathering, and then we get into the ore and supergene, which is gold that has been weathered but is still there, and then down into the fresh rock. So the importance of bismuth is that during that weathering process, the bismuth stays put. So given that we know, or we've identified an association between bismuth and gold, if we can find the bismuth, then we can find the gold, and that's really how we unlocked Mulga Bill in the early stages. Ironbark, on the other hand, is a different style of mineralisation, so it's not intrusive related, and that tends to be associated with the elements arsenic and antimony. So given that the gold levels in the soil are very, very low, and we're dealing with parts per billion, arsenic and antimony are easier pathfinders to find more ironbarks. So really, now if you have a look at Mulga Bill, here, which is, this is a conceptual pit design that we've done, and it shows all of our drilling here. If I turn the surface off, you can see that more clearly. And this is drilled down, the pit depth there is conceptually just over 150 metres, and the deepest drilling is down to about 300 metres, and this is a kilometre long. So this is a significant zone. And as we've spoken about before, there is some extremely high-grade mineralisation in here. But also, if you look at it in long section, you'll see there is some mineralisation remaining close to surface, but the majority of the mineralisation is deeper down, and it's very, very rich down there at the bottom of supergene and top of fresh rock. So what that means is, really, when we first started drilling this, we didn't know where that fresh rock gold was, and the bismuth was extremely important in targeting this mineralisation. So in this instance, the Pathfinder mineralisation has been the key to unlocking Mulga Bill. And we've now got over 500,000 ounces in Mulga Bill. And then further to the north here, Mulga Bill North is looking pretty good as well, although it's less well drilled. If we now zoom across to Ironbark, which is just about 1.5 kilometres southeast, this is another conceptual pit, and as I said before, this is a different style of mineralisation. We found this with that little auger rig, and this was actually a gold anomaly. It was 2 auger samples, which were, from memory, 8 and 15 parts per billion gold. So we didn't initially ascribe too much importance to those hits. But when we started drilling it, we quickly realised that this was actually a significant deposit, and we've now got a resource there of 100,000 ounces at a grade of 3.3. And importantly, this actually outcrops. There are some holes here you can see towards the north end where we've got gold from surface, so that's very significant. Now, extrapolating that, these are the data points we've got now down that whole eastern corridor, which we're calling the Ironbark corridor. And these are future targets, and I'm going to talk about them more in my next video. So thank you. This is part 1, and I'll have more soon.